Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is another exciting, interesting, and who knows what episode of SkyWire. And for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, SkyWire focuses on listening, and we take listening on all levels, areas of life, concepts. We'll take a word and we'll just explore the word as far as we listen. So we could take the word perception, for instance, and we'll take listening and we'll go, okay, how does listening affect our perception? Or how does perception affect our listening? And what does listening do with that? And we do this every week with all kinds of subjects, with all kinds of topics. And we're just exploring where listening takes us and how deep. So today's conversation is about spirituality. And what does it mean to be spiritual? What does spirituality mean? So we're going to get into some wonderful conversation. And I would welcome each and every one of you that are listening, watching, to feel free to comment, share, whatever you like. We're going to bring them up as much as we can. Excuse me. And if you are tuning in to the replay, hello. We're glad to have you. And again, just comment on YouTube or the event page, wherever you are, on our personal pages, wherever it is. We'd love to hear what you have to say regardless. So I want to welcome Nicole, who's not been with us before, but she's been in the comment stream before. Hey, Nicole. And then there's Marguerite, who looks lovely today. And there is Katrina. And Jamie. Hey, Jamie. Love Jamie's voice. And Gail. Hey, Gail. Coming out of the snow in Boston. And Elaine. Oh, holy shift, Elaine. Hey, Elaine. And Dave, I think, is here. And he's coming back and forth. He must be having some trouble today. And today we are missing Kalani, who's usually here, and Heidi and Mark, who are in Italy. And they are hosting Mia today. So that's a really cool thing. And I'm sure they're having a marvelous time. So and I just want to welcome everyone once again, and I have a quote. I watched a movie last night, about imagination, and it was a very cool movie, and it won an Academy Award. The Game of Imagination, I think is what it was called, and the quote was this: "Sometimes it's the people no one imagines anything of who do the thing that no one can imagine." And it was pretty cool. So the people we least expect to make the most amount of difference, or the least amount of people making the most amount of difference, are the things that you least imagine. And so with all of that being here, all of you, everyone listening and everyone in this panel, in this green room, in this film strip, are extraordinary. And we are, all of us, connected to make a difference. So I want to thank you all very much, and I honor you for being here. So with that, I'd like to start with Marguerite, because she said something really extraordinary in the comment stream this week, and I thought it would be wonderful to open it up, because it's a great way to conceptualize spirituality. So go right ahead, Marguerite. Why don't you take it first?
Okay, so I think I wrote something about standing with the feet in the wet mud. And that would constitute being spiritual. But there's another added thing. You need to plant the seeds of lotuses. That's why you're in the mud. Because it's in the mud, we need to be grounded here on this reality in order to actually make a difference. If we live up in some kind of other spheres, we can't do healing, we can't do any kind of things. We're just living up in that little bubble. So we have to be grounded in the mud. And the seeding of the lotuses in that mud, the seed grows out of the earth like any other plant. And our job is to listen to that vibration of that little seed coming up and nurture it so that in each of our organs and levels of consciousness we can actually explore the whole level of frequencies along the way to become enlightened.
So to you, spirituality means what?
It means helping other people and
And getting
Actually,
dirty? And getting dirty?
getting down and dirty and soaking their feet in the mud and get in there and feel their feelings and listening to their feelings, listening to the pain that they have, because the pains, it's definitely that catapulting force that actually helps us grow. So we might as well see that right off the bat, seeing that is a very precious gift from Spirit.
Okay.
And if we can acknowledge that, whoa, that's a spiritual person.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to go to Nicole. Hey, Nicole. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And I love what Margarita said about spirituality, because to me, spirituality is about connecting to ourselves on a level where it is body, mind, and soul, because it's the collaboration of all those things united together that makes us spiritual. Because to me, spirituality is part of my daily life, and I think it's a spiritual being is somebody that is present in their daily lives. It's not something that we do external to who we are. So to me, spirituality is definitely connecting to who we are, to have that clarity, to uncover, like Margarita was saying, and revealing those parts of ourselves that are sometimes hidden and sometimes locked away because we weren't ready for them, or because we weren't there yet. And spirituality to me is definitely a process that happens, that we evolve in.
So what is the difference between being spiritual or the spirituality?
I think for me, being spiritual is just living who I am in all of the facets that I am, meaning that I have this reality going on in my life, in my physical world, that right now I'm going through a move and I'm living in chaos right now. And sometimes being spiritual to me is being present in everything that I do. And spirituality is, for me, spirituality, in all honesty, I think it's just a buzzword. Sorry to put it that way.
That's
Because
all right.
I just think that it's a label that people need to put on something to understand it, to make it, because our mind can only go so far, because when we're stretching it, it's like it gets us out of our comfort zone. So when people talk about spirituality, I think it's just however you define yourself in the present moment, how you live in your spiritual being, is what you define as spirituality for yourself. So does that answer?
Yeah. One is more personal and one is outside of yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. We're going to build on this, okay? This is it. This is a building process of what this means, or what we guess it means, because who really knows? So Katrina, thank you so much, Nicole. What about you, Katrina? What do you want to say?
Well, I resonated so much with what Nicole said, because I think on a lot of levels we feel the same way about that. So I don't want to repeat what she had said already, but I do really feel that being a spiritual person is owning your journey and listening in every step of that journey. So whatever it is that is, happening to you, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're willing to own, is how you become a more spiritual person. It gets you closer to that essence, that universal energy, God, however you explain that, because you're actually owning your own path. We can't all of a sudden wake up spiritual one day. It has to be the journey that we're taking, and do we own that? So I'm not sure if I can expand on it much more, because Nicole did such a great job of she uses the same languaging that I would use. But I think in terms of being spiritual every day, it's about taking that little piece of time for you every day and realizing you are a spiritual person in whatever you're practicing. It doesn't mean you have to go to a church to do that. It just means, how are you going to show up for yourself today and really listen?
So it's not about religion.
No, not to me.
That's you. So it's separate.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, Jamie, you're on.
Well,
You're up,
gosh,
Jamie. You're up.
I'm always up. I'm always up. Gosh, I mean, what everybody said so far is, I totally agree with that, really, and that's pretty much, I share the same perspective, and I love Margarita's metaphor of the mud and the lotus. Really beautiful, very, very beautiful. I would say exactly the same thing, Margarita, but if I used kind of different terminology, I would say that spirituality is about embracing every part of your human nature, and at the same time recognizing that there is a deeper component which gives you more fulfillment, more meaning in life. So that's a very broad kind of definition, and how you decide to materialize and manifest that is in an individual thing. So, you know, I would say that spirituality is an individual thing. Every person has their own unique spirituality, their own unique spiritual path. And it doesn't have to be religion, as Katrina was saying. It can be related to anything that moves you at a deeper level, like nature, the universe, looking up into the stars at night, anything like that. So for some people, it can be religion. It's whatever moves them to that deeper experience of fulfillment. And I would really stress the importance of integrating the complete human being, the whole of your human nature. I personally, in my spirituality, in my practice, I do a prayer every night which embraces and encompasses every part of my human being and all of my senses. And I ask the divine, I go through a prayer, I ask the divine to be in my eyes, to be in my nose, in my pranam, in my voice, in my throat, in my hearing, in my heart, in my arms, in my hands. And I move down my body, in my loins, in my genitals, in my legs, in my feet. And then I come back up my body in my third eye and in my crown chakra. So you're embracing every aspect of the human nature, every part of the human senses that is divine, and there is spirituality in all of that. And as Nicole was saying, sometimes it's difficult to embrace all of that because sometimes there are parts which are kind of dark or hidden, and maybe we're afraid of, or we have some kind of hang-up about. But slowly in the process, you have to learn to overcome those hang-ups and integrate every part of your human nature, bringing it together. And when you do that in the consciousness of divine or spiritual experience, you are becoming a complete human being. And then I would just finally finish up by saying that I have the perspective that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I think that's quite a well-known quote that's been drifting around the internet. We're not humans having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. That's how I look at it.
So I want to ask, and then I see that we have a comment on the comment stream, so I want to address that. But what I want to ask is, so is the spirituality the doing of things, the process, and then spiritual is the being, the process?
Yeah, I think they go together. You know, I think doing is an aspect of manifesting who you are, and you are a spiritual being, right? So the doing is kind of the other side of the coin of spirituality. It's applying in a practical way. It's applying who you are, projecting your energy in the world, and fulfilling your life purpose in this particular life. So, yeah, doing is very much part of spirituality, I think, just as much as being.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because we want to explore it in like the human having the experience terminology, so that so more humans can have the experience of going deeper, listening for the experience, or listening to the experience, or listening to get us to the experience, or deeper, you know, so we know what it looks like. So we have a comment on the stream, and it's from Sally Sue Ember, and she's asking, and I would put it up, but I think it's better off if I just read it and not play with the buttons. So what she's asking is, any of these panelists committed practitioners of some path, and what that is, and how does their commitment manifest? What are the roles of prayer, meditation, deities, community, and teachers? That is a great question. Great question. So next on to speak, I think, is going to be Gail. So Gail, we can hold this question to the next round, or you can start to address it if you like. So the question is, are any of you committed to a certain path, and if so, what? And what is your commitment? How do you manifest your commitment and your ideas of prayer, meditation, community, teachers? What would you say, Gail?
Ooh.
Take a piece if you want.
Well, the first thing that I want to say actually is what spirituality means to me. And it means to me, it is having an awareness that I am connected to something greater than just who I am. That's really the difference for me. And I think other people pointed to that, but I don't think anybody really came out and said that. And for me, that's like the most important part of my spirituality, is really knowing that I am a part of something so much greater than who I am. And the way I connect to that part is by being present in the moment. And let's see, to get to Sally's question, for me personally, my spiritual journey has been a real path. You know, and it just keeps on going and changing. But I actually work with a particular spiritual teacher, and I just found him along the way. I've done lots of different things to connect with my spirituality. I actually lived in a yoga ashram for 2 years and studied yoga and meditation, and I still include that in my life. But this particular teacher that I have really just, it changed my life. I just have to say, you know, I think that part of spirituality, at least for me, but I think for most people, is really like we're searching for something. You know, we're really searching to understand who we are and how we're connected to everybody else, and finding, you know, maybe a oneness. And when I found this particular teacher for myself, I felt like I didn't have to look anymore. Like I discovered what it was that I was looking for, because in this particular teaching, there's such an openness to it that it's not about, you know, drawing conclusions and saying, well, spirituality is this or spirituality is that, because the minute we think we know what it is, we've lost it, you know. And yeah, so this particular man, actually, his name happens to be George Jadar, and he wrote this amazing book that my former literary agent recommended to me. This was many years ago. I didn't even know this, but he was her spiritual guide for many, many years, and she just suggested that I read this book. It was called The Soul, an Owner's Manual. And I was like, okay, well, I'll read this book. And it was like everything that I had been through before, like living in the ashram and just all these different experiences I had, all just came to this one like revelation that this particular teacher had. And he's actually not alive anymore, but I worked with him when he was alive. He lived in Ojai, California, and so I studied with him, and he actually developed this particular practice, and it really centers around answering, and it was a very practical way to be spiritual, and that's what I loved about it so much. But it was really about understanding the answer to these 4 particular questions. And the questions are, you know, who am I? Where am I? Where am I? Why am I here? And what am I to do? And through this particular teaching, it's hard to explain, but you know, the answers to those questions and acting on the answers to those questions helps me to know who I am in relation to everything else, and also to know what it really means to be a powerful person. You know, where does my power really lie? And I'm not talking about control or manipulation, because that's what most of us think power is. You know, how do we get this person to do that, and how do we make things work out so that it, you know, controlling things. And this was like such a completely different understanding about power. You know, it's just the power of putting the power of the universe behind us and being able to harness that power by surrendering. I'm going to stop now because it's, I could go on and on, but anyway, thank you.
Good answers. No, I think it's really important that we take time to express who we are in this, because that is our individuality, and that's part of this conversation that we're having, is owning your individuality and that journey. And it's going to look different for everyone. It's going to look different what you hear, where your hearing takes you, where your listening takes you, because we're all, I think, pieces of some puzzle. So that was great. Thank you very much. And and the way you began, Gail, was really important too. It was a really important piece. So thank you. And there's so much to talk about. So again, this is one of those topics that you never can get done with. We're never supposed to be done. How could you ever be done with it? So thank you. And so Elaine, are you having a spiritual experience?
I particularly enjoy that Jamie brought up the well-known phrase, are you a human being trying to have a spiritual experience, or are you a spiritual being in a human experience? And I resonate with the latter, though it's interesting. If I were to inquire of myself, when do I think I had a shift in awareness to begin thinking of myself as a spiritual being, more identified with an expansive sense of self, not limited solely to this physical body, but a consciousness or an awareness that I experience my connections with these other parts of myself. I would have to say it was sometime in the 1990s, and this was a few years into my exploration of A Course in Miracles as a tool to help me explore this idea of who am I anyway. And as a side note, responding to Sally Sue Ember's question, am I committed to a particular practice? My honest answer to that is I am not committed to a particular practice or tool. I happen to have been raised in a Unitarian Universalist household, and that was a religious orientation that gave me very early in my life an appreciation for all the ways that humankind comes to explore life, death, and the mystery of living in this cosmos and finding our way and exploring our journey. And because of that, I then have noticed, I've really given myself permission to just, from time to time, when it looks like there is a new practice that I want to explore, then I explore that. And then if my interest in continuing that with, I'll call it ritual involvement or routine investigation, if that shifts, that's okay for me. Because for the most part, what I'm discovering is I'm finding the same universal truths emerge for me in each of these different practices, methods, tools. Some have been more like healing modalities. Some of them have been more like meditative practices. But if I were to sum up one of my core beliefs that I hold, that influence the way I am in the world, is something from the Course in Miracles that says nothing real can be threatened. And my true self really is my is my spiritual self that is just not defined by this body. And the last quick thought is, I've been very much moved by all the stories of people who've had near-death experiences, who came back from dying and were in this other dimension and said, you know what, now when I'm here back in this life, I don't fear death anymore, because it's not the whole thing, you know. Okay.
Wow, you're all geniuses. You're all spiritual beings having this experience, because, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to all of it and I'm thinking about myself at the same, and where do I fit in? And I think to myself, well, you know, I'm Jewish, and I love a lot of the Jewishness of being Jewish and things. And at the same time, it's because of my listening that I've been able to take what I want, or take what I need, or take what's supposed to be mine take what I'm supposed to have learned from being Jewish. And my spirituality, my spiritual practice is my own religion. You know, it's what I've built from what I've listened to that I can agree with or like, and then what everybody else is saying, and then all the other ideas that are out in the world. I just keep taking them, and that becomes, I think, maybe spirituality. Being spiritual is your own, obviously it's your own connection, and it's your own religion. It's your personal, whatever you want to call it. And so, you know, I have just gotten that from sitting here. That's what my listening has done for me. It's made it much clearer to accept and to be permission to be whatever. So, thank you. Dave, you're next.
Hey, hi. Yeah,
So,
I had a bit of a spiritual experience earlier on, because I dropped out of Google and couldn't get back in, and didn't know that I was back in, and then I thought I was out. So I made it back here. So that was quite interesting. It's a fascinating subject, because I think it comes back to the uniqueness of people, in as much as there is no one size fits all as far as spirituality, and as far as our beliefs. Everybody creates their own spiritual world, I think, rather than they take what they find that they can understand, they take what they feel works for them, and no one spiritual experience is wrong, and no one spiritual experience is right. It's a unique experience that we as human beings are a group of unique people who are all the same. And it's, again, the play on words that we are human beings, we are not human doings. We are beings in a world where it is okay to be afraid. It is okay to be unsure, and it's okay to be powerful. It's okay to be strong. But do we need to call on some spiritual guide, some spiritual experience to make us like that? It's quite possible that we are in contact with our own spiritual identity at all times, and it most likely as not flows through us and guides us. We have attached with it from very early on, and we're probably not aware that we have. And it's only as we start to investigate ourselves that we understand our capability, and we understand that we needn't fear something. We understand that we can do something. We understand that the potential that we have is unlimited, and we can only get that unlimited potential by having an unlimited spiritual awakening. Because it's quite right, I think, and everything is only my opinion, but it's quite right that we are human beings, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are beings that work on many different levels and many different planes of experience, and we have the ability to tap into any of them at any given time. I think once we understand that we have the capabilities within us, we realize that we are part of that great big plan. We are all dots on the planet, and when we connect those dots, we will understand I think the true picture of this God or this being that's in control of everything.
Well said. Well said. So the interesting thing is, I was just sitting here, and maybe you all have had this experience, but when you think about this notion of spiritual beings having a human experience and humans having a spiritual experience, I just said, well, I guess the human part of human being is the human part, and the being is the spiritual part. So it just is the blending of the two, just in what we call ourselves. I don't know if that's any aha, but it just became more clear to me sitting here now. And this idea of spirituality and spiritual and being spiritual, how does your listening make the difference? What are you, because I know without it, I think I was just I can't even imagine without having been on this listening magic carpet ride. So I'm very curious about what your listening has meant to you, and in this whole process, and how you have used it to be where you are today. And I also want to compliment Sally again, Sally Sue Emper. She's writing some wonderful comments, and she's asking great questions, and she did TM, and she's did all these things with the Beatles, and she's been, having great conversations with Margarita and with Jamie. So if at all you want to comment live about any of these comments, you're more than welcome to. Just let me know. So just put up a finger or a hand and say, I got something to say. So, I'll be sure to come to you. So I want to go to this concept of what has your listening done for you lately? Marguerite.
Well, since I discovered that I could listen, made a huge difference, because when we're going around like sheep with, the flaps here and the flaps here and the flaps here and this here and whatever, so one needs to sort of wake up or see, okay, so where does this bring me? And of course, the massive pain that I went through, or many other people went through, it's like having a shield in front of our ears and eyes and whatever. And then when we sort of peel off each one of these layers like this, and in the end, there is nothing left, And that's the key. I think that's the practice that we need to do to actually realize ourselves. And if we don't have listening, then we can't listen to that. We can't listen to where the problem is inside, because it's an inner journey. It's a healing journey. And when I started, it was with TM, like Transcendental Meditation in Sweden. And I just went there very young, and in my 20s, and then so I went to a couple of sessions that we were there with this guy who was teaching it, and then I tried to do it, and then I had this experience like, I don't know, I didn't know anything about these kind of things. It was like this energy inside of my root is shut up right there, like boom, like a cannon going up. And then I came back next week and said, I've tried it, what is that? And everybody was just looking at me like I came from a foreign planet. Never happened again after that, but so that's how I started, I guess, waking up. And listening has been a very great part of that. And everybody's journey is like this, like up and down and up and down. Oh, yeah, I got it, because I opened my ears and my eyes. Yeah, so it's very, very valuable.
Yeah, it's like you get something, and then it's an aha. You hear it, Yeah. Then that next it opens you up for the next. Oh, I heard that.
Uh-huh.
And then what does this mean? And then to even show up someplace, you listen to how you should show up. Nicole showed up today. She heard a call, an invitation, and here she is. She heard it. Marguerite, so were you complete with that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Sally Sue that I have a Tibetan teacher, and I do some practices. I'm not a very good practitioner, I think, but I don't want to advertise anything about that. But my practice is to try to stay present in the moment and practice that all through the day, every day, and I do some kind of practice in the morning, but like when the sun goes up and you're being present to the sun going up, that's really lovely because it sets the tone of the day. So that's I hope that helps, Sally.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So Nicole.
Marilyn?
Yeah. Go ahead, Gail. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in here because you said something about Nicole, and I was a part of making that happen. And so, like, right here to me, this is like just a moment to me of what spirituality means, okay? I mean, like, just like the perfection of it all and how something that needed to happen happened. Nicole needed to be here today for some reason, and God knows, maybe we'll never even know what the reason is, and maybe she won't know what the reason is, and it doesn't matter. But I just got onto my computer, I got onto Google Plus, and there was Marilyn's message. Anybody know anybody that wants to be on the show today? And Nicole just came to my mind because I read her beautiful blog post, about self-awareness, and I was so taken by it. And she said this whole thing about the birds, and Nicole, you'll see I sent you a message because I really had this question, like, are birds really self-aware? And we'll talk about that. But anyway, so like Nicole, she was just like in my mind and my heart and my presence, and I thought, Nicole, how about she'll join us on the show? So I said to Marilyn, I said, well, how about Nicole? And Marilyn said, yeah, go ask her. And I said, okay, and I had to do a couple of other things first, and I just did what I had to do, and lo and behold, I pinged Nicole, and she was actually there. And she said, oh, I would love to be on the show. And
so
then
let me ask you something. So what makes that a spiritual experience?
Yeah, okay, that is a great question. For me, what makes that a spiritual experience is that I am like just so aware of the perfection of the whole thing. And somebody could say to me, like, what is she, crazy? What is she making such a big deal out of the fact that, whatever. So Nicole came on the show. But to me, that's everything. That
timing, listening.
Yeah, that there was a need that was fulfilled, and that it was a divine need. It wasn't something that was just orchestrated by me. And this gets into your question about the listening, okay? Because this ties it in for me. Is that what makes it spiritual? What makes it divine for me is that it all happens through the listening. Because the listening, listening to that still small voice. That's when we get the messages. That's when we get the whispers from some sort of force, a force greater than our own. And for me, personally, this is just me. It's all individual. But for me, it's like a force of goodness, that there's something good that's motivating us. There's a force of good in the world. And that when we connect in with that and we put that behind us, we connect into the true power. Okay. And so that's what happened right there in this little moment.
Okay, perfect. So now that's good. Thank you for doing that because yes, you listened. It was all a chain of listening. So that was perfect. So thank you, Gail. So Nicole, what makes for you a listening experience spiritual, or a spiritual experience listening?
Well, I'll use Gail's example. It's like the listening comes from the simple things, from the little nudges, from those little moments, those little whispers that show up, and by investigating, like Dave was talking about, investigating ourselves and allowing ourselves to step into who we are and really hear ourselves and listen to ourselves on deeper level than just physical. And to become aware, to go back to Gail's thing about awareness, is to become aware of exactly who I am in that moment, at that time in my day, during that whatever's happening, and being aware and being present to the listening and hearing it, because you can be present to the listening but not hear it. And when because I've listened, I could quiet my voice, I could silence my voice very easily. Very easily. I learned to silence my own spirituality, my own spirit, for many, many years, and until I started having these moments. I was listening, and then I go into this space of not wanting to hear, not wanting to listen, because it was too different. It was way too out there for me. And then I started listening, and the listening happened in those little moments, in those little wake-up calls, in those little things that was like, oh, that's been happening to me for forever. and where I've learned to listen, my teacher, to answer to Sally Sue's question, my commitment is to listening to myself through nature, and nature's been my best and most present mentor throughout my life, and it's been in my life since I've been very young, and I've been journaling pretty much all my life. And so that's how I have learned to listen to myself, by stopping to that place in my self that wanted to be quiet, to silence myself. Sorry, my brain's going on French and English here, but it's that capacity to stop silencing my own voice and paying attention to those little nudges, to those little...
Can I interrupt you a minute? So she just had an experience just now that I don't want to overlook. She just said something about going between the French and the English. And what she did was she quick listened. There was no processing, there was nothing. She knew throughout her entire beingness that she was speaking in English. She didn't stop or anything. She heard a message, listened to a message, but she knew exactly what to do. That's the depth of the quickness of how we can get into our listening. That's how fast. That was a really interesting thing, because you didn't even take a break, and you didn't speak a word of French.
No, but it's a muscle. It's a muscle that we get to practice. Mm-hmm. This listening thing is something that I had to learn, and then I'll step back to that.
It's a practice.
Yes, it is a practice. It is a practice, and like I said, I was silencing that voice so much that I had to relearn. I had to retrain myself to listen to myself and pay attention. And it took, unfortunately, I always say a 2x4 across the forehead, not physically, but it took these massive lessons in life that came into my life as like chaotic things for me to start listening. And now I pay attention when it is a little nudge, because I learned to listen.
Good. Yeah, well, listening that's why we're doing it. Because there are things that we have brought up here throughout the months and months that we've been here about listening, that this is a practice and it's an art. And you don't even realize sometimes what you're doing when you are, and you don't realize sometimes what you're doing when you're not. But the more you listen, the more the distinction is clearer and clearer. Katrina, thank you very much for that. Nicole, Katrina?
There's a lot I could comment on, and my brain's kind of like exploding, but I'll try to focus this here a little bit more just on my personal experience, because I've been a clairvoyant and an empath and a very sensitive person my whole life and didn't listen to that. So I've been on this journey of figuring out how to listen to that, and the only way that I can really be present in my human experience is by owning those gifts. but I had to learn how to use them on my own because I was tuned into them and I was experiencing that at a very young age. It didn't mean that I could talk to anybody about that or really explain the experience. So I think in terms of my listening, it's very layered. And I had to sort of learn, okay, now I'm listening at the very physical level, and now I'm listening at a more intuitive level. And I'm not sure why I know the things I know, but I know them. And I have to trust that what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is what I need to know. Does it mean I need to act on that? Maybe. That was the other part of learning how to listen. Because just because I was hearing it, seeing it, feeling it, doesn't mean it's mine or doesn't mean I have to do something with it. So I think in my personal experience of listening in a spiritual way, the best way that I could be a spiritual person is to actually show up and own my gifts. That's really creatively what we're all here to do. We all have special ways that we do what we do. And I don't feel that you can really truly be listening spiritually if you're not connecting with them and owning them.
So you're saying you can't be spiritual if you're not listening? Or you can't
I don't think so. In my personal opinion, yes.
Okay, thank you. Jamie?
Well, I'm just going to quickly answer Sally Sue's question, and I'll come back to your question, Marilyn, about the listening. About my spiritual path, I have a very clear spiritual path, and I've known it for a long time, since I was very young. I've had teachers, one in particular, I had a guru during my time in the monastery who guided me more kind of along the direct path that I'm following now. I have, my background is Hinduism and yogi philosophy, but I embrace a multi-faith approach. So my spirituality is oriented towards the concept of God that manifests through all different religions. That's my spirituality. And my practices that I do involve a combination of sort of meditation, the kind of traditional idea of meditation, also something which is known in Hinduism as puja, and puja is basically devotional worship, and that can be like through prayer, through chanting, through music, anything like that. So it's a very devotional path. So it's bhakti yoga. It's the path of devotion. That's my main path. And I have like set times of the day where I do those things. During the day, I use the approach from Eckhart Tolle, which is, being present in the moment. And I think just about everybody on the panel today has mentioned this, how important that is, to be present in the moment. And for me, I combine that with my devotional approach, because when I'm fully present, I feel the presence of the Divine Mother kind of with me, watching, observing. And when I can tune into that, then I realize that I'm actually her, which is kind of bizarre. I mean, I'm not trying to say that I'm like liberated, I'm God, but when you get into that, you realize that that's what you are. You are that divine presence which is experiencing the world. It's experiencing your thoughts, emotions. You're not the thoughts and emotions. You're that divine presence which is observing everything. So that's my kind of daily practice which I do. So just to answer that question, then to come back to your question, Marilyn, about listening, and well, it's connected because listening. I just want to throw in a quote here, which I've recently has come up for me, a quote from Rumi, the philosopher, and silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. And that for me is important because silence is absolutely the language of God. And that means you have to listen. Because if you're not listening, you can't hear that silence. You can't hear the language of God. So that listening for me, that takes place during my set time of practice, like meditation and prayer. I'm listening. And also when I'm engaged in the present moment, I'm listening for the presence of the divine, and then I can kind of tune into that. So listening for me, as Katrina said, I agree with her. If you're not listening, you cannot fulfill your spiritual potential. You cannot become that spiritual being. So listening is an integral part of spirituality for me.
Absolutely. And I believe that that we're all on this different journey. I learn one thing, somebody else learns another, and by sharing, in community and sharing in relationship, I hear what you say. I listen. I can, you know, I can take some of it in. I can use it. I can listen to use it. I can listen for it all. And I think it takes us all together to be doing this. I think we're meant to come together. I think it's one of the messages that I'm listening to, that create this, Marilyn, do this, become part of this, Marilyn, share this listening stuff, you know, come together and share what we know, what we've heard already. Because God knows, I in this moment have one lifetime. Maybe I've had many. I believe that I've probably been reincarnated and there's time left to come. But I want what you know. I want what you've already heard. And I got to listen for it. And I have to listen to understand it because it's so profound. Elaine.
Wow, what a rich discussion. And as Katrina said before, it's like, the mind is almost spinning. But I'm led to come back to the question about listening with spirituality and kind of weave it back into what Sally Sue Ember was asking about what's your practice. And now I'm going to come back to the word. I've got my little card here. You know, we have spiritual, and within that is the word ritual. So for me, when I start the day, rather than a single practice, like always open out the Course in Miracles, or always doing meditative breathing, or always doing a laughter practice, I listen for what do I feel like is moving now? What way do I want to celebrate the divine? And for me, you know, I've had to come to terms with honoring that what works for me is doing different things on different days, and that's okay. Many of the scientists might say, oh, well, gee, you aren't building neural pathways because you're switching things up. I don't know, maybe by doing what I'm doing with, sometimes I call it my own ADD brain, I've actually expanded my capacity because I understand more things, or I continuously so much want to find the holiness in everything that's around. So whether it's this practice or another practice, I can find the richness in whatever, you know, in whatever it is. And I am really, what my life practice is for listening is to find the richness in y'all.
Perfect. So I want to thank you. Thank you for doing that. And I think you just gave me an idea for next week's show. I just heard it. I don't know if anybody else heard it. Anybody else heard next week's show from what she just said? Ritual. Talking about listening for our rituals. And what do you think, Jamie? Is that good? Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I've got lots of contributions for a topic on that.
I think we should talk about what's in a ritual. Dave,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, if you would, before we go into, you know, a little more personal things, I want to ask you to take a minute or so and just kind of sum it up for everybody. Sum up today's experience for everybody.
Well, I think to me it's quite clear that we all have our own unique way of describing what we uniquely feel and we uniquely understand. A couple of points that came out resonate with me very strongly, like everything does, but a couple are almost as if they would make a noise if they hit the ground. They were that strong. It was to do with listening as an active. I think listening is a very, very active program. It's something you actively do. It's not a passive thing. And we should stop, if we can, listening just to hear people. I think we need to start listening to understand, not just people around us, but I think we should also be listening to understand what message we are picking up. I mean, once we switch our own personal Wi-Fi on, we will start to pick up and connect with things around us, and they will pick up our Wi-Fi. And it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not if it's a human connection or spiritual connection. If they can pick up our Wi-Fi, as long as it's a good connection, then we're going to advance. And I realized a long while ago, somehow, that the silence that we have with people is probably one of the most important factors in things, because we learn so much from silence. Once we sit with silence, and we can embrace silence without any issue or trouble or fear, we become comfortable with silence. And when we're comfortable with silence, we allow silence to permeate. And we find that we pick up ideas, and we also pick up things that people are not telling us when we say nothing. And we can read between the lines in conversations. And maybe that's some sort of external guidance that we've got that's being given to us and flows through us. But it's probably a reason why when we listen to somebody and we remain silent and let them speak, the connection really is because the letters in silent also spell listen. It's exactly the same. It's just a reformation of the letters. And so that connection of being silent with somebody and listening to them to understand them builds our connection. And I think that's something that we have to do all the time. We have to listen to understand what's going on. We have to listen to understand ourselves, and we have to listen to understand other people. And I think having that connection, like I said, our own little personal unique Wi-Fi that we keep switching on, that's blinking away in our minds, we can connect to so many other things around us. And a long while ago I stopped fighting it. I don't have any particular one true path. I don't have any particular one true spiritual experience or being or God or whatever. I know that there is something, and I don't care whether I'm right about it or not. I understand that there has to be something else. It doesn't mean that your God is better than my God. My guru is better than yours. You know, I can look within myself more often than you do. It's not a competition. It works for everybody. And once we have this mentality of accept everything rather than fight some things, everything that comes to us, everything that we connect with, everything that flows through us, everything we fear, everything we try to achieve is all there for one reason only, and that's our progression. And I think once we start to allow that to happen, we'll pick up some amazing things on the journey.
Beautiful. And I would say, just to finish just a little bit about what Dave said, is I think that's the difference between hearing and listening, is that hearing is not the understanding, it's the hearing. Listening is the understanding. And I have listened, and I am assuming that when I'm listening, that's what's taking me to understanding. And without it, I don't understand. Listening it helps define it. It's giving me, it is the understanding. So this has been fabulous, and I want to thank you all for doing this, and for everyone that's listening. I want to go just one by one. If you will just share something you're working on that you want the world to know about, would be great. And Sally has asked some phenomenal questions on the stream. If you all would go there and address some of the answers, that would be great. So let's go one by one, go real quick and just share with the world what you're working on, and that's wonderful. Let's start with Nicole.
Well, what I'm working on presently is basically rebranding. That's the one thing. But I'm also working on a book right now, which is hopefully coming out in the summer. At one point, I don't know, but anyways, that's basically my main focus, and it's about finding your soul through nature. So that's my project.
Cool. This is a great opportunity for us to listen, to understand, and to know you all better.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Marguerite?
Yes, as a healer, I have a passion for helping people, and I have a program called Your Healing Journey. That's what I'm working on now, and it will be launched in maybe a couple of months. So this is very, very precious to me, because if I could help somebody make the connections inside, it's like amazing. And it also helps. So my website is thecrystallotus.com, and if somebody wants to go and connect with me there on a live seminar, online trainings, there is a free a sign up there if you want to have some free sessions. It's pre-recorded, and you can be in the membership for free. And I enjoy having you there if you'd like to go there. So thank you for this space, Marilyn. It was awesome. And thank you, Sally, Sue. It was nice to have a conversation with you and all of the rest of us.
Cool. Great. Thank you very much. And then Katrina?
Yes, right now I'm doing I have a new collaboration with Andy Bryan and Manny St. Victor for a project we're doing called Journey to Collective Leadership. And it's basically taking like the mind, body, spirit aspects of what it means to connect with that inner leader, and we're going to help people do that. Where it's like a coaching program, self-development program, all that kind of rolled into one. And that's coming out the end of April, April 20th. We're excited about it. You'll probably see little drips and drabs here and there of stuff that we're putting together. So that's my latest fun project.
Well, that sounds like a good one. We'll want to know more. We're going to want to know more about all these projects.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jamie?
Hi. Yeah, I've got two things that could be interesting for anyone who's watching. I've got a free video series about practical spirituality. So 3 videos dealing with 3 separate areas of your life. That's relationships, home, and work, and how you can use your spirituality to enhance those areas of your life. So free video series. Go to my website if you want to pick that up. I'm also working on an ebook at the moment, which should come out fairly soon, where I concentrate more on how to enrich your love life using your unique spirituality. So that's going to come out sometime soon, not sure when, but that's what I'm working on at the moment. And yeah, just thank you everyone for an amazing, amazing conversation with all of the perspectives from the panel and from the audience. Thank you everyone for your comments and your questions, and thank you, Marilyn, for organizing it all and threading it all together in such a lovely, fantastic way.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. It's a pleasure. The thread just happens, you know. Gail?
Thanks, Marilyn. Thank you, everybody. I wanted to just say quickly that for me, listening is my practice, and that's how I connect to my own spiritual being. So I would like to invite everybody to join me and my co-author, Brandy Raris. We're going to be on Good Day Google Plus tomorrow at 1 o'clock ET, and we're going to be talking about our new book entitled Finding Zoe, which is Brandy's memoir. So come join us. It'll be a great conversation. Brandy is deaf, as many of you know, and her sign language interpreter will be there, and it's going to be a wonderful conversation. I know that many of you have read the book. Come join us. Thanks.
Yes, I've read the book, and it's great. Elaine?
Am I unmuted? I am unmuted. Very good. This month of April is prelude to the first Sunday in May, which is called World Laughter Day. So this week and next week, I am listening a lot for clarity for how I want to do some World Laughter Day activities and hangouts, so be on the lookout for those. Also, I've gotten clear just this morning for the next 2 Tuesdays, I'm not going to host live Holy Shift shows. I'm going to put up a replay of one of the previous shows in the usual time slot for folks to watch. The next 2 weeks for me are going to be doing taxes and doing decluttering and doing major listening about bringing balance into my life, especially with my care for my parents, which when I was looking at the hours this week, it's like so much more than I think. And I have to find the right balance. Thanks.
Good for you. Good for you. And Dave?
Well, I've got a busy week ahead. We're going into the studio tomorrow to mix and edit the Zurich and Seattle that I did last year HPT transformation seminars. And what we're going to do is turn them into a CD course and also some podcasts. So where people can download it. I veered against or railed against turning it into a DVD where you could watch, because a lot of the things that happen there are very personal and unique to the people. And with respect to them, I've not gone the DVD route this time, but we're trying to condense down a total of 120 hours of seminar, which should be fun. But if anybody wants to connect with me, and I'd be grateful if you did, you can just put one of those terms into Google, either my name or the company name, and we will show up on the first page. We've got a community, Facebook, Twitter, website, a blog, everything. But a Google community is a little bit of a thing for me at the moment. It's the HPT transformation community. If anybody wants to come along and look at it, just let me know and I'll send an invite over to you. It's a great place to post your work. Unlike other community leaders, I let people freely express their own business and their own hangouts and everything. I believe it's a platform for people to share something that's in the style of what everybody else is talking and posting about. So feel free to join it if you want. I look forward to seeing you. I'd be grateful to see you. Thank you.
Good.
One other thing, Marilyn. This spiritual thing where things happen for a chance. I tuned into your show 3 weeks ago, and I've been on it a couple of times. So obviously, for me, it was meant to happen.
This show, you mean?
Yeah. I saw this show accidentally about 3 weeks ago. It was a passing comment that Elaine made to me. And Elaine's put me in touch with a lot of great people. And this show, I've been on it a couple of times, and I'm meeting all of you. So it was obviously meant to be. So thanks.
Thank you very much for being here. And for me, I'm working on a coaching membership that will include a listening laboratory, that will be group coaching and plus private coaching. And I'm only able to take 5 people. So if anybody is interested in talking to me about it, please email me at MarilynShannon.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you about the details. It'll include private coaching that'll be one-on-one with me, plus group coaching, which will be in not a hangout, but in another platform called Zoom. And then I'll have some guest speakers as well to tantalize the listening and to take our lives and businesses to whatever level is next. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. It's been just stellar, stunning, and stupendous, and spiritual, of course. And we might just do the thing on rituals next week, listening for what those are, and because I'm sure everybody's doing something that's really interesting. And the thing about this show and listening is that we are coming together here to listen to the messages of the universe, and we're letting them out here. This is where we come, where I'm able to come and say, this is what I heard this week, or this is what I'm hearing now, or feeling now, or listening to now. Here it is. So I want to thank you all for doing it with me and for being here, and for all of you out there, thank you so much for tuning in and staying today for as long as we've been here. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And please share this with the world. because listening is what we're doing here, and it is the message of peace and guidance and everything, and what's really going to bring us all together and I think heal the world. So with that, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.